Welcome to Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Our guests are insiders, now on the outside and the right side, dropping truth and nuclear intel bombs and breaking it down just for you. And now it's time to meet your hosts and co-hosts. Your hosts of Beyond the Box are Brenda Lankart and Suzanne Hott. Brenda Lankart is host of Beyond the Box and retired law enforcement. Joined by Suzanne Hott, host of Beyond the Box, Joel's Indoor Arena and Event Center, and White Horse Productions. They are joined by Tom Althouse, Brian Sang, and Penny L.A. Shepard. Brian Sang, co-host Beyond the Box, is Full Disclosure Now Movement, fulldisclosuremovement.org. Tom Althouse, co-host Beyond the Box, is the real author of The Matrix, The Immortals, and The Matrix Redeemed. And Penny L.A. Shepard, executive producer and co-host of David Zublick's Awake Nation, The Dark Outpost, Matrix Perspective, and Beyond the Box. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Beyond the Box begins now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Box. Today is April 20th, 2024. It's still 2024, right, Susie?
Right.
I guess I can only hope. So tonight we're going to have Tommy Edwards with us again tonight, and he's got some really interesting stuff that we're going to talk about. And hello to Brett, Norma, everybody out there.
Hey guys.
Yeah, here we are. So before we get started, again, we're going to give us a safe place. So, Susie.
Yep. Hey, so we have a storm. I think you said you might be expecting some hail or something, right?
I've got a really bad
Hi, Brett.
thunderstorm over me now. Yeah.
And Norma and everybody. Yeah. We're supposed to have rain here till like midnight. So it's been raining all day and cold, and it's just been one of those days where you just stay inside and send the kid out to go feed the horses,
Well, unfortunately, I have that crack in my foundation, and when it puddles outside, the water has nowhere to go. So I've been cleaning water all day, and
Oh yeah, you have that problem with the water in your house. That's so awful.
I left them a
Deal with
message.
that.
They said they're going to send a contractor out this week to assess
Hopefully.
the problem. And I'm like,
Hopefully.
assess the problem. For 6 months, I've been telling you where it comes from. What? Because I'm a girl, you don't think that I know that the foundation is leaking? Get out of town. So it'll be all right.
Well, with that, I will say, we will say a prayer.
Yes.
Okay. So I just asked tonight, I love the Father, and he's my everything. So, I just ask him that he will watch over and protect us and everybody watching the show, and that those that are needing to be in the show, those that are needing to hear the word that's being spoken tonight, and that whatever is being said, I'm hoping that, and that God will help connect people to the answers that they're looking for, that these things will, because nothing is by coincidence, and so I ask for this blessing in Jesus' name.
Jesus' name, amen. All right. Now, let me bring out our co-hostess that does the mostest, Miss Penny L.A. Shepard.
Good evening. And my prayer is that if they send a contractor, that he's not there to make a hit. There's
Yeah,
no
right. What kind of
Unless it's
contractor
to
are you
hit the bad stuff
sending?
out.
Get the water out. You know how I think. I think in CIA terms. So I'm going to introduce our guest a little bit. Now,
Well,
Tommy
hang on,
Edwards
Penny.
is.
Hang on, because I do have another co-host backstage. You want me to go ahead and bring him out so
Sure.
he can hear this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just type it again.
All right.
Okay.
And backstage, who just joined us, we've got Brian. Brilliant Brian. That's what I'm going to call him. Brilliant
Hey,
Brian.
Brian.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Okay.
you're not frozen. Holy cow.
He probably has better weather than we have, huh, Brian?
It's beautiful right now. It's finally spring. My wife and I were joking months ago. Okay, now it's spring, and then it would feel like spring, and then we get hit with a blizzard. But now
Right.
it feels like spring.
Right.
All
That's
right.
what David keeps saying on Wake Nation. David Zugler.
I love
Oh,
it
look,
out there.
it's spring. And then he says it just snowed. That's not spring. Spring has
I
not.
always said if I ever retired, I was going to go back to Bullhead City, Arizona, because I just used to love it out there. Now it's hot in the summer. It was one time
Oh, yeah.
140 degrees out there, but I did everything at night. I shopped at night. I played at night. I worked at night. Yeah, that's a smart way to do it. So yeah. But okay, Penny, would you like to go ahead and
Yes.
pop up our stuff on Tommy,
I would.
and we will get him in.
So now, Tommy Edwards is a Virginia Tech football star. He's also a recording artist, and he's done a documentary. His documentary is called Brain Slosh, and this is why. So he's explaining a little bit about what this documentary is. We're not going to be playing it today because we're going to be talking about something else. A mashup of footage from his life in the documentary Brain Slosh. For more than 5 years, a huge number of individuals, organizations, both public and private, public institutions, public officials, local law enforcement, local school system, magistrate's office, FBI, CIA, Virginia State Police, infra guard, secret societies, on and offline, in-person, overt and covert, clandestine acts of sabotage of vehicles, machinery, tools, tech, phones, appliances, equipment. I'm going to say Tommy's targeted. My home, my mother's physical assault, trespassing, breaking and entering, psyops, COINTELPRO style violations of my civil rights, hate crimes, poisoning, contamination of food and personal products, pharmaceutical tampering, firearms taken, altered, and returned, listening devices planted in my home and vehicles, illegal surveillance. And we will be playing that video either next week or maybe the week after. He says, I was placed on the federal terrorist watch list, illegally had my home raided. Sounds like, that sounds like something that happened to many people I know. Safe broken into, phone pinged, a SWAT team from Bergen, New Jersey requested to apprehend me, who were told a potentially deadly lie that I was armed, homicidal, and headed for a school. And we're going to be talking about school shootings, by the way. Just a few weeks after the Parkland, Florida high school shootings, as retaliation for my exposing a criminal conspiracy that I'd been subjected to, with the official reason being a wellness check self-generated by the Radford Police Department following a social media post that exposed these federal crimes. A small piece of information that was withheld from the New Jersey law enforcement until after a shelter-in-place order was given the schools, businesses, and residents of Hohokus, causing a loss of revenue, creating a panic, costing Bergen County taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars, and placing lives in danger, not the least of which is mine. This caused devastating harm to my reputation, mental and physical health, and caused a cascade of events that seems so bizarre and far-fetched sounding that I'm remiss to share too much of it, but I will be detaining many of the more illegal acts and names of those directly involved as best I can. He was denied any help from local, state, or federal law enforcement or the DOJ. Are we surprised, ladies and gentlemen? No. Profiled by multiple undercover and overt encounters with FBI agents, assets, and officers of the Central Intelligence Agency, many of whom embedded in my life as handlers, both strangers and friends, who were recruited to participate for profit. He had former teammates, remember he's a Virginia Tech football star and a recording artist, from college suddenly reach out and invite him to a 3-day music festival with all his costs covered to profile and feel him out regarding his feelings about the university they played for. That's Virginia Tech, which we'll be talking about today, seemingly at the request of the football program, the university, the alumni group, and the U.S. State Department. He was followed through multiple states as he traveled, attempts to run him off the roads, mostly on the interstates. He was terrorized for more than 5 years in his home and most everywhere he goes. Police intimidation and threats of force. He suffered a TBI caused by TDAP booster that left him in a coma and nearly killed him. We spoke about this a bit when he was on the show last time, triggering Parkinsonism and damaging his vestibular system and visual cortex. And finally, he had a neurologist tell him that I think it's TIS or TDI, didn't happen because it's rare. And then he prescribed him with pharmaceuticals that caused him to have a dangerously low blood pressure, fainting, and then it caused additional brain injuries. So he's going to be with us for, a while, explaining some of the things that happened to him, this much more. But I just want to say what we're going to be talking about today, because Tommy was a Virginia Tech football star, and the anniversary of the Virginia Tech shooting, which was April 16th, 2007, just transpired. So that's what we're going to be talking about today with Tommy. 33 dead in a Virginia Tech massacre, worst shooting in U.S. history. And I also did my school thesis on my master's degree on school shootings. With that, let's bring Tommy in.
All righty.
Hello.
Hello, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy.
How we doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Been a hell of a week.
I bet.
Yeah. Started off last week with the phone disappearing and showing back up with somebody who's not allowed in my life, and all kinds of stuff. It's been kind of crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Has this been going on, Tommy, like pretty much just since you were born, or when did you actually notice the ramped up occurrences of the CIA in your life?
Well, I didn't know that was going on until 2020, when an asset of the CIA revealed herself as a handler, and professed her love to me, and then proceeded to provide half truths and information slowly here and there, and use that as a way to manipulate me, and it's just been bizarre. Like I've always felt like there was something going on in the background, and figured that's probably the source of it, but couldn't put my finger on it and couldn't pinpoint it. Didn't have any way to vet it, And like when I lived in Ventura years ago, a friend of mine printed out something called Project Superman. It was Preston Nichols from the Montauk Project interviewing a guy named Andy Piru, and she had printed out the whole story for me. Or it was the whole thing, because there were so many parallels between his life and mine that she said it was just uncanny. And after reading it, it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck over and over and over again. I wound up kind of going into hiding for a little bit, which wasn't really hiding. I just fell right into the thick of things, moving down into Malibu, and the programming was heavy and hot, just all the time. But like I said, it wasn't until 2021 that I had any type of like actual proof. So it was just kind of a weird thing in the background that would pop up here and there, and it'd be something to make me feel really uncomfortable, in that it didn't seem natural, But I could say, going back to with handlers and stuff, going back to at least high school.
Yeah, you and I had talked about the football program actually being a Superman program. I'm going to just read a little bit about that project. Project Superman, interviewed by Eve Lorgan. Andy Pero was unwillingly subjected to a mind control program offshoot, the Monarch Project, a trauma-based mind control program similar to what Kathy O'Brien describes in her autobiography by Mark Phillips, transformation of America. Andy Pirro claims to have been created through a combination of genetic manipulation, trauma-based mind control, and Silva mind control training, resulting in superhuman feats and psionic abilities. In addition to this, Mr. Pirro alleges to have been unwittingly used in covert assassinations as a Manchurian candidate and also in missions connected to the Montauk Project, such as time travel. Andy Pirro first went public with his story in 1998. When did you find out about this program?
2003.
Okay, so not that long after, right?
Yeah, and it was no, it wasn't that long after, and it was I guess it was still in the early days of the internet before a lot of things were as filtered as they are, and that led me down some rabbit holes. And I was still recovering from a brain injury. I had a fractured skull in September of 2023. No, sorry, 2003. Yeah, and so that made things all that much more convoluted and scary, and and panic stricken.
Now we're going to be exploring a lot of that in the next couple of sessions that we have with you. You were talking about, we had decided that we're going to talk about the shootings at Virginia Tech because it is the anniversary of it, and you attended Virginia Tech. What years did you attend Virginia Tech, and when did you play ball for them?
I graduated high school in 92, so I started in the fall of 92 at Tech, and I redshirted that year and then played the 93 and 94 season at Tech, and then the 95 season at Boise State, and then I decided to not play my senior year. And so went to Tech on football scholarship, but I started spending time at Tech when I was a kid. My first trip over there, I remember going with my dad just to visit the football offices, and specifically the old equipment manager that had been there when he played, who gave me my first football helmet. It was a Rydell suspension helmet, and I still have it. It's just white helmet. I used to take the face mask off of it because I wanted a motorcycle more than play football when I was little. But went to football camps there starting in 1984 every summer, and I was on 2 occasions I was placed in the dorm with a coach as a roommate. The first time was with Coach Billy Height, who was the running back coach. That's what he started grooming me at that point, and then I wound up signing a scholarship to Tech, and he was my coach the whole time I played there, my position coach, and used a lot of the same techniques, oddly, as pedophiles do when they groom their victims to gain their trust. Yes, and there wasn't any impropriety like that, but it still undermines your trust when all of a sudden things don't line up. When you end up underneath their coaching, which is, I mean, you have a contract. You're basically bought and sold, and you have to be where they tell you to be, and eat what they tell you to eat, and wear what they tell you to wear. And
I know that my brother was a football star. Susie?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I have a question for Brian. Brian, I know you've done a lot of study on the Montauk mind control and Philadelphia, that whole thing. And I noticed that a lot of people are getting their memories back late, early. What is your take on this? Is there like a whole lot of people awakening recently, like, to what is going on to them, what's happened to them?
Tommy, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Thank you. So as far as I can tell, there are waves of these Montauk Project survivors, if you will, coming forth with their testimonies. And it seems like their programming starts to break as they hit like their later 20s and 30s, as they, as individual human beings, get to find their sovereignty after being mind controlled from children. At a certain point, their programming just doesn't make sense. What they were taught and drilled into them as children doesn't make sense in the real world that they have to function in. And so you mentioned the name Andy Pirro. I would put him in like X-Men first class, if you will. He's like the first class. And then maybe around them was like James Casbolt and Max Spears. and then you had kind of like more what I would kind of put as like more like the second way, and Penny might have been in first class or into the blending into the second class, and then that's where my friends like Arkeem Ra and John Whitberg and a lot of them and Penny Shepard would have been in the first class as well. And then there's also splits. You've got not only the Montauk Project, but then some of the kids getting into their adolescent years, it seems, went into space. Others stayed here on Earth for, assassination programming or other work, detail duty for the other side, if you will. And so, it's a pleasure to meet Tommy because I haven't heard his testimony yet, but everything he's saying is just ringing along with like what 50 other people that I've already met, mostly online and some in person at some of these UFO conferences, like Contact in the Desert, and coming up this year, Journey to Truth, and shameless plug for my conference in July. Yeah, they're coming out of the woodwork.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I would wager also, Tommy, that you might not want to hear this, but it's quite possible that you were used in an assassination program and you just don't know it. When I was coming out of MK Ultra, I had written a song called Let's Go to Mexico because I went to Mexico with my handler, who's my husband. And I disappeared out of a bar, but I didn't remember this until I was like 58, which is a long time, right? And this was in the 80s. And I was there with my brother, the one that is dead now. He wrote a book called The Whistleblower. He was a football star, and he quit University of Louisville. And I told you that Greg Stead tackled him, and Nixon came down to see Greg Stead. And he was like, why did Nixon come to see him and not me? He just didn't understand, right? And so he started researching. He wrote a book, an unpublished book entitled The Whistleblower. But when my memories came back, I started going over all the songs that I sang, right? Because they also code you, Tommy, in songs. So and your songs also are written in somewhat in code. So I encourage you to go back and look at some of the things that you've written that you might not even know because you're telling yourself stuff. So in Let's Go to Mexico, I wrote a song. Let's go to Mexico, stomping on the cobbled streets. Let's drink another tequila shooter, then grab a little something to eat. And when I went over it, tequila is to kill ya, right? That's what they will always refer to it, to kill ya. And it is, let's drink another to kill ya. Shoot her, Penny, then grab a little something to eat. I disappeared out of a bar in Mexico. In Rosarito Beach. My brother David was there with me. And he came out and said, you need to come back inside. We're not in America anymore. We're in Mexico. It's very dangerous. And I said, I'll be in a minute. I'm just smoking a cigarette. He said, no, Penny, you've been out here for like an hour and a half. You could have had a pack of cigarettes. So somehow I lost time. I disappeared. And in later recollection, I'm thinking that I was taken by one of my handlers under MK Ultra, and I was asked to kill somebody and to kill her, shoot her, not, to kill her, shoot her, then grab a little something to eat, which was what I did. I went back inside, I got something to eat, and then I came back out and threw up.
Can I ask Tommy a couple of questions about that? Because you mentioned football players, Penny.
Yeah.
And then Andy Pirro was a football player. And then Tommy,
wow.
you were, right? I mean, I believe so, right?
Yeah. We were both recruited by Penn State.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so then here's your football coach at Virginia Tech, you said was grooming you. So I got to ask you, Tommy, was that football coach then, here he is at Virginia Tech. Was he also related to these government programs, and so he was like a handler who knew what he was doing, or he was just a predator who just happened to be in the football program, and you happened to be in the program, the MK Ultra stuff in the Virginia Tech programs, and then that's how you met, or was he stuck onto you intentionally?
Well, he started recruiting me in 1984, and that was Bill Dooley was the head coach at the time, and he was the running back coach, and he was the only coach that stayed from that coaching staff after the change in 1986, after 1986, when Frank Beamer came in, and when I had my press conference, my senior year in high school, announcing I was going to Virginia Tech, and read this statement that they had written up for me, challenging other top athletes to stay in state, to build some powerhouse schools in Virginia. He got a raise, and he got made the assistant head coach of the team as well. And I don't know if he had direct knowledge of that or not. He always just kind of presented himself to me like the uncle I didn't have, and always made an effort anytime he saw me to come over and talk to me, and ask me how I was doing, what was going on. He'd put his hand on my shoulder, tell me dirty jokes and stuff, and if football camps, as the years went on, he would use me as the example to get out and to show different drills and stuff, and it definitely felt predestined that I was going to go there. But when I was a kid, not very. I mean, I was fast and aggressive, but I wasn't like couldn't catch well. In fifth grade, suddenly my eyesight changed in my right eye from 20/20 to 2200. So suddenly I didn't have any depth perception, which made things hard. My freshman year, my freshman year in college, I started as the deep man in the kickoff return. And so that's just one of those nerve-wracking things that not having depth perception, can kind of jam you up. But as far as him knowing specifically, I don't know. But I know that I was being abducted in between the freshman and sophomore season. That summer, when I lived off campus for the first time, I started experiencing what I later would characterize as alien abduction. But now I'm thinking it may have been more like my lab. But at the same time, I know that or I've been told by somebody within the CIA who was a handler for a while that his dad was in charge of UFOs and extraterrestrial contact with the Pentagon during the 80s and 90s. And he said that's something that goes back to before I was born, genetically. And they were definitely recruiting my genetics and the legacy. My dad's a Hall of Famer at Virginia Tech, and he and I were the first father-son combination to score rushing touchdowns in bowl games in NCAA history. And we both wore number 33.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question or observation. Is a lot of the people who are recruited into these programs, there's these figures in the background, and then 33, that's a Masonic number right there. And then, your father was like a star football player as well. So then, and then you have a CIA agent basically saying, yeah, you were targeted from a young age. So then I was going to ask, are you bloodline, or do you quote unquote, or do you have Freemasons in your family, or do you have a lot of family who are military, those sorts of things?
Well, my mom's father was a 33 group Mason and a Shriner.
Oh,
and then and he was head of maintenance and safety at the Radford Army Ammunition Plant. And my dad's mom worked there in the underground facility as the administrative assistant for the general that ran the thing. As far as family in the military, I had one cousin who went to the Naval Academy, and he retired out of the service a few years ago. But my mom's first cousin, John Krieger, his best friend Charlie Epperly had a son that they named John, and John married my cousin Johnny's daughter. Well, John Epperly is General John Epperly, in charge of the National Guard, the commander of the National Guard. Yeah, but
currently, is he currently head of national? Wow. Okay, I think I thought like that name sounds familiar. Okay.
Yeah, and his uncle Stephen Epperly was in the waiting room with my dad the night I was born. Stephen also played at Virginia Tech, and he's the first person to be convicted of murder in the state of Virginia without a body. And the FBI told my sister, or told his roommate from college, when they came to interview him, that they had him connected with 54 murders. And
Wow.
apparently he was doing some contract work for the for the CIA, and not something that they
Okay.
would, admit to, but yeah.
They might
54
yeah.
murders.
54. I mean, there was a whole syndicate of drug running and stuff that centered around a bunch of former Virginia Tech football players back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 60s, maybe even going back to. And it was kind of the framework for Mena, Arkansas. I mean, there was
Right.
there's a small no duty international airport in Dublin, Virginia, and there's a guy named Wally Thrasher who's a famous drug smuggler that was a part of that. He disappeared, supposedly plane crashed in Argentina, and he didn't make it. But
Oh,
yeah, they're making a movie about his life now, and he and Epperly were buddies.
and this was a cousin or uncle or what? What was it?
He was just a guy from my hometown, and like my mom and dad went to visit my mom's dad, who was in the hospital with a heart attack, and that we'd come down from Botetourt, where we lived, to Radford, and mom went into labor while she was at the hospital there. So I ended up being born in Radford, and it just happened somehow that Epperly found out that my dad was there, or I'm not sure why he was at the hospital, but he did tell my dad that he wanted to be there for me, like the uncle that I didn't have, because my uncle Tommy had passed away like 9 months before I was born, and Epperly had kind of hero worship for my dad and my uncle.
Steve did or John did?
Steve.
Wow.
John was born. He's a little bit older than me, but he would have been a kid. And John is he's Steve is his nephew. I mean, Steve is his uncle, and his dad's Charlie. I don't know, but years ago, I found some human remains on our property, and
What?
yeah, we bought the store right next to this, at the edge of a sinkhole that was right next to the Mirror Valley Speedway, and the detectives that came and took what I found, I mean, it was bone. It was a humerus that had been sawed off about 3 inches above the elbow, and scalp with hair on about this long, like skin with hair on about that long, and some other stuff that I found after the police were there when I went digging around some more. But yeah, they made that disappear and never sent it off to be analyzed or anything. So we think that they were probably just part of a cover-up, because I went back like a couple weeks later, and somebody had gone through and cut a bunch of branches off just random trees and piled them back on top of this brush pile that had the further you went down, the more it had deteriorated, and that was on top of a mattress that had rotted out and just was the frame.
So then, Tommy, I mean, because like you're bringing, I mean, there's a lot here, because Virginia, as a lot of our viewers know, is a hot spot for, spooks, if you will, and the CIA intelligence. And then
where the CIA is.
Oh, yeah.
McLean.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Mena, Arkansas, right? The Clinton, cocaine, airport there, operation, and then, it almost with these bodies and these contract killings and stuff like that, it almost sounds reminiscent of what they had with the Robert Pickton murders, I think, up in Canada, where like it was like they were having people having these raves at this pig farm, and then also people were disappearing at this pig farm. And there was also, it seemed like this like satanic ritual abuse was going on there. And then here you are mentioning, Virginia Tech, the CIA, drug rings, grooming, contract killing, 54 bodies just on, one person alone. And then you're stumbling on crime sites that seem to get shoved under the rug there. Do you have any kind of context to kind of summarize what exactly is going on here?
Well, the Newer Valley, where Radford is, Radford's got the Army ammunition plant there, which has a deep underground base, and you had the St. Albans Psychiatric Hospital, which was a private psych hospital, and you had Virginia Tech and Radford University. So it was like perfect, like open air behavioral modification laboratory for MK Ultra, because it's not too far from Langley, a couple hours, but far enough away, and so they had the venues that they would typically experiment on folks at, all there right there in a cluster. And Epperly had been a patient at the hospital there a couple of times. I know that the former doctor who owned it, he was notorious for abusing the electroshock as a form of punishment and behavior modification, if you will. And like Virginia Tech has got a long history of with the CIA. Like the current director of clandestine services is a 1982 Virginia Tech grad who started working for the CIA when she was a sophomore at Tech. Her dad was a clandestine officer overseas, and they regularly recruit there. They actually have a CIA officer that is in residence there that teaches a class, and they run drills there regularly. Actually, they were on campus the week prior to the shootings at Tech, running some drills. And as far as like bringing it back around, like I met a person last year who had also been programmed at the deep underground base where at the arsenal where I was taken as a kid. But my grandmother's office was in that underground facility, and like she had crypto, like top secret clearance.
What's the name of that arsenal, Tommy? Let me see. I can pull it up on it.
Radford Army Ammunition Plant. Yeah, they've scrubbed a bunch of the pictures and stuff. They used to have pictures because they had declassified the underground facility, and just kind of looks like a big square with grass on it. But there are lower levels that that, a lot of people.
And all these places are very close to one another. It's like a little.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Butt Mountain facility over in Blacksburg where I was taken while in college, and I'm pretty sure that's where was utilized in part of the offshoot of the Montauk project. Initially, I was brought into the Stargate program, or the child portion of it that they don't really talk about in the FOIA or whatever they've released as far as top secret on. But when they were seeking kids with psionic gifts as a way to enhance them, the same way they do with ritual abuse, it's the same way it enhances visual acuity and auditory acuity and all that stuff. It's does the same with psionic abilities. So, but I remember being in strapped to a chair. What seems to be like a replica of the Montauk chair. At one point, when they finally got the thing to work, they made multiples. And like there's one there, one at Cheyenne Mountain, there's one in Atlanta. Yes. And like I remember being strapped to this chair, and somebody, whoever was running the thing, it had kind of a southern Texas kind of accent, and a southern accent reminded me of Brad Pitt and Glorious Bastards. Like, remember the guy going, "You buy the ticket, you take the ride," and then it's like a Hunter Thompson thing, but like it was. I had started as I started recovering memories, and that all was triggered by the SWAT team thing that happened. Like it was so traumatizing that I didn't sleep for like 9 days, and I just started having these flood memories coming back from childhood and from adulthood. Like when they announced that I was leaving Virginia Tech, like this guy who had kind of, I'd say he was my handler. He was in this fraternity I was hanging out with at the time. He was an older guy, and he was in the National Guard at the time, and he just insisted that we go to Mardi Gras, to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and like we were going to leave, and like I get 3 phone calls from the 3 major TV affiliates wanting to come do interviews because Tech had done a press release that I was leaving, transferring, and so they came and did these interviews, and like it's like I had a press conference in my high school gym when I was 18 or 17, and then again in my off-campus house in my bedroom when I was 21. And we get in the car, we go to New Orleans. The second night there, I get separated from the guy I went down with, and 2 girls we went down with, and had gone off with another Tech student whose mom was the dean of students. Also, the guy that I went down with, he was vice president of the student, whatever it is, SGA, Student Government Association. And so I ended up with the son of the dean of students. We went to go smoke a joint, and got caught by one of the parades and couldn't get back across Canal Street. Wind up in a bar, where you get a bathroom ticket for every beer you buy. And just kind of hung out there. And then he went to use the bathroom, didn't come back. And these two girls came up and sat on either side of me and started buying me drinks. And I went to go look for my buddy, and he got thrown out. He apparently he'd fallen asleep, like leaning up against the wall, it said. And so I go back up, and the girls have shots sitting there. And I take a shot and I throw it back, and all of a sudden it tasted really like chemically. It just didn't taste right. And they were wanting me to leave with them, and I didn't have a place to stay. We didn't have a room for that second night. So I'm like, okay, this will work. And as we're walking back to the car, I had my arms over their shoulders, and I realized that I wasn't walking anymore, that my feet were just dragging. They put me in the car and took me to the house, and that's all I remember. That, and then I woke up in the back of a cab with one of the girls saying, where do you want to be dropped off? And they handed me my watch and my wallet, which there wasn't any money in it. When I got out of the cab, my pockets were pulled inside out, and I wasn't completely zipped up. After the swatting, I suddenly remembered that I was drugged, abducted, and raped as punishment for not sticking it out in Blacksburg there at Tech. And that was all kind of prearranged.
Here's the other thing, Tommy, which you might not have, because I was gonna talk to you about that, because they like to get you drunk and they like to drug you so that you black out, but you would be maybe roofied. But if you were roofied, you still have a capacity. And I don't know how they would titrate it to the point, but you could, in fact, effectuate a murder.
Yeah, I used to watch.
Remember.
I used to watch a lot of horror films when I was a kid, and I read about like serial killers and stuff. It's just fascinating.
Hypnosis is something big that they do. Yeah.
And then about the time I got to college and afterwards, I started having nightmares about, and I would wake up like frantic, feeling like I'd done something,
Yes.
And would always worried about, like, I'd see myself covered in blood, and about that time I stopped watching like anything with any gratuitous violence for a long time, just because it seemed like too real. It was too close to home. And but I never could put my finger on any of that either. I just thought it was just nightmares and like the result of watching. I wanted to make horror films when I was a kid. I wound up working for Mike Michaels out in California briefly, doing some like movie makeup and stuff. Which,
you could do some regression work to recover some of those memories. You can have somebody that you trust to help you do some memory regressions and go into your own memory.
Yeah. My grandmother's cousin's wife did hypnotherapy and past life regressions and stuff. And she after we talked a little bit about what was going on in my life, she felt like she didn't have the tools to deal with what might come up when
Right.
I did that. So she never would do it. But that's something I'd be open to. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think it would help. You'd learn some things.
You definitely have to be
aware, 'cause,
prepared.
if
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just saying. Well,
You just kind of went out,
broke-
Susan. You broke up.
oh, I said, Penny, you have a story. You have a funny story about regression, don't you?
I do.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I personally do not, for myself, I would not do any regression. I pray, and my prayer was to God, please reveal myself to me. And over the past, since I left my husband in 2016, the things have been revealed in a timely manner. So I say, so my head doesn't explode. But to each his own. Everyone has a different method, which works for them. For myself, my mother did use hypnosis on me. I also, Tommy, had those same feelings, like my mother and I had murdered someone and buried them in the backyard. now I think it wasn't my backyard. And that memory came up when they were building a sidewalk in our front yard, and they dug this really deep hole. And my brother David was a football player, and he got in a fight with his girlfriend, and he pushed her, and she fell down the hole. That's how deep that hole was. And when I saw the hole, that's when I had this memory that my mother and I killed somebody and buried him in a backyard. And I don't believe that it was ours, but we were in Florida. So these memories, and we're going to be having a show on Monday with our trauma triage team talking about Elizabeth. I think her last name is Loftus, who was and still is alive. She's working at UCI she's testifying about false memories, and she doesn't believe. She's testified for some very scurrilous people, like Weinstein and Maxwell most recently, and Ted Bundy. And so we're going to be talking about the false memory syndrome, because what these individuals did was they discredited those memories that you and I are recovering, and that many, many people that have been involved in these programs are now recovering on their own. Yes, neuro-linguistic programming. My husband was very adept at that. And I also think that your coaches are too, because David was very, very close with his coach. You're in high school for 4 years, but before high school, you're in your elementary school and you're playing whatever sports that is. So you're engendered with that coaching environment. And when your instance, your dad was in it. So it's like something that you're groomed from a very small boy to go into this. And then the coach essentially takes on a role of your father. He is your handler. And so if you get drunk or you get roofied, or you wake up in the morning because you just think you were drunk, right? And you passed out, but you don't have any recollection of what happened. Susie, can you tell the story about, I think it was Miles and I believe they were in a super soldier conference in Vegas. And I don't know if Cosbolt was there, where they all were guided to do something. Could you tell that story?
Yes. Okay. So there was a basis, like the basis groups that go and they meet all the super soldiers and stuff. And UFO people and truth community, all the different people that come to those. Kind of like what Brian is sort of organizing. So you have all these people that come to these meetings. Well, in this one particular meeting, there was a group, a very particular group. It was Miles Johnson, Max Spears, Sarah Adams, and there was a few others, but there was another lady, and I don't remember the lady's name, but she tells the story. And basically, they'd all checked into the hotel that night, and she was in her room, and then there was a knock on the door, so she answered the door. Now, she was triggered to do into mind control, so but part of her mind was still conscious of what was going on, even though she was kind of like being hypnotized by the group. And when she came out into the hallway, James Casbolt was actually the leader of the group. Max had a little clipboard and was writing everybody's names that were supposed to be there. And so everybody was just kind of standing there. Then they all went down to the basement to sit down in a chair at this hotel conference room. They were all given like instructions of what they were supposed to be doing by, and like I said, James Casbolt was kind of like aware and conscious and not like mind controlled like the rest of them. And so, but she was kind of awake, but yet kind of doing it. And then they were all given their assignments, what they were supposed to be doing. So later she shared to Miles that he was mind controlled part of one of the group, and he didn't. No, I wasn't. And so a lot of people that this happens to, they have like no memory of it. It's like complete hypnosis. And some of the things that we knew a sheriff who had this sheriff was a top Freemason. He was also trained in hypnosis. So that seems to be something that that they learn how to, you know, say a trigger word and put you into
Yeah.
that state,
So
you know,
trigger
and
word
then,
or even a series of words as you are. If you're a top echelon, they will. They can't just use a word because anybody could use that word, right? And
Yeah.
they could trigger you. So they would use a series of words. Like John said to me, my handler John said, Penny, do you want to know when my parents named me John? I was like, not really, John, but I know you're going to tell me. And he says, they named me John out of the Bible. There was a man sent from God. His name is John. That is a string.
and that was your trigger.
That was a
Yeah.
trigger. 30 years later, that very same trigger is said to me by a pastor who comes out on stage and says, I'm going to prophecy. And I'm like, what's that? And he looks straight at me, and I'm in the second row, and I've been at this church. He knows who I am. I've corresponded with him. And he starts talking about John. And I'm literally wondering, Tommy, is he hearing my thoughts in the green room? Because I came in there and I'm praying and I'm asking God, you know, who should I represent? Should I represent Christian artists or secular artists? And at the end I say, by the way, tell me, because it's a girl thing, tell me, by the way, can you tell me who my next husband's going to be? And so he comes out and says he's going to prophesy. And then he starts with that phrase. At the end of when he was done, I got up after that service. I thought I was going to throw up. I felt like I'd been hit by a Louisville slugger, and I felt faint. And then I went to the next church, which was Bill Hybels' church, to ask, can you get anointed through words? I didn't know what happened to me, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they'll use an abundance of things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Strings of words that may not go together, or phrases that aren't typical to the human language or to the English language. Yeah.
Yeah. I had another
Like
handler
you said,
that
Tommy,
made me pass
Tommy,
out
you
when
said
you
that
said
you,
the codes. I passed out.
Tommy, you said that phrase. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, Tommy said the phrase earlier. You bought the ticket. What was that saying?
Bought the ticket, you take the ride.
Bought the ticket, you take the ride. That right there. That's a code.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. I was terrified, strapped into this thing, and wasn't sure what was going on. I think, it basically that facilitates like a quantum projection, which allows open wormholes and manifest things into the physical reality that seem impossible.
So Tommy, two things. One is I didn't realize I was sharing the wrong screen. I was looking for Amber Galloway. She's saying a lot of sounds like pertinent information. So I hope someone on our team is in touch with her. And then Tommy, John Whitberg has commented how when they were strapping the children into there's Montauk, at least the Montauk trip chair at the Camp Hero base on the east end of Long Island, he said a lot of those kids didn't make it. It was just putting him in. He didn't even know, he said that they never put him into the chair, but he knows a lot of kids that got put in that chair, got fried, or they died trying to do whatever. It sounds like you were put in the chair. You were successful at whatever tasks they wanted. May I ask, what did they have you do? Was it opening wormholes? Were they having you create gold out of nothing? Do you remember?
I think it was opening portals. The person that I bumped into so the guy that wound up being my deprogrammer and maybe reprogrammer, I don't know, is a guy I met in San Diego in 2005, and then but I initially met him in 1980, and when he was in town with MindReach with SRA, looking for that body of that murdered girl, who Steve Epperly had murdered, and it's the quantum entanglement's crazy. So I bumped into him when I'm 6 years old at Tasty Freeze, and he and my grandmother ended up having a conversation, and that's when I started getting programmed via the going to her work with her on Saturdays or something, and started being subjected to SRA and some horrific stuff. That's where I encountered what's his name? God, drawing blank.
Was he a colonel?
Yeah, Aquino.
Oh, really? I was about to say, yeah. You ran into Aquino when you were 6?
Well, he started doing some of the programming,
Right.
And that's part of the reason Daryl ended up leaving the program after they brought Aquino in, because as part of what they're doing. Like Daryl was one of the architects of the remote viewing program, and after some shit went down, he's the Jeff Bridges character in Men Who Stare at Goats is loosely based on my friend Daryl, who was that guided me through starting a nonprofit organization. Like he predicted that something big was going to happen when I went home for Easter in 2007 to help my dad with the business, making some deliveries for a wholesale company that he started, and the tech shootings happened. Like he said, you're not going to come back, and if you do, it'll just be your stuff. And the time he gave me this sheepskin that he said that Norman Paulson, who started the Fellowship of the Sun, the Logos Foundation up in Santa Barbara, and the author of Christ Consciousness, the book, had given him, and he had described me and told him my birthday and told me what I looked like as an adult and my personality and stuff, and just uncanny, but it was one of Yogananda's yoga blankets. Paulson had been one of Yogananda's devotees and helped build the Self-Realization Fellowship there in LA, and the Hermitage down in Encinitas, the big campus there with the white buildings with the onion shaped like turrets. They're painted purple and gold, just beautiful. First time I drove by that, I felt like I had been there. It felt like, and that just really uncanny, just connection to that space and or that place. But Daryl knew that I wasn't going to be coming back, and that was like on the 10th of April. I fly back to Virginia, and I'm helping my dad on the 16th, and the rest is just awful. I mean, we kept hearing sirens all day, and we thought maybe there had been an explosion or something at the arsenal, because their property was relatively adjacent to the arsenal, not very far away. And every so many years there'd be an accident there, or something would happen, and it was like lots and lots and lots and lots of sirens. And then we go inside to take a break, and TV said 33 dead at BT, and they're showing the kind of the aftermath of the shootings and stuff there. And at that point, I decided, I wanted to do something to try to help. Like I felt like me, 33, had been dead at the college since I left there. It's like it felt like they tried to scrub me from the sports, all the programs and stuff. Like I led the nation in scoring after my second game, my sophomore year, or my freshman year in college, and set the freshman scoring record. Michael Vick tied my freshman scoring record there. Helped put Tech in the national kind of limelight, and we went from 78th preseason ranking to the top 20 and won a bowl game against Indiana, and it became the first father-son combination to score rushing touchdowns in NCAA history in a bowl game. So there's all this. I don't know. I kind of got lost where I was going with that one.
That's all right. We have so much to talk about. I think we're going to get ready to take a short break. Everybody can just collect their thoughts. And then we're going to have you back for the next couple of weeks, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Is that all right with you, Tommy?
Perfect.
We have so much
Also,
to discuss.
Penny, I wanted to say I'm reading Amber Galloway's text, and she said, Tommy, you are blowing her mind. All the things that you're saying is resonating with her. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. I think we need to have you back, like at least for the next, at least for the next 3 weeks. Okay. Because we have so much to discuss. I think when we come back from the break, let's just get started with just a little bit of a taste about the shootings, because I know that was something that you wanted to talk about. Would that be okay?
Yeah, please do.
All right, everybody. We are going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Please stick around, and we'll be right back. Well,
And we
that
are
was
back.
kind of a loop. Yeah, we are.
You got me
I'm sure that was like
Everyone
5
said
minutes,
5
but-
minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
That's a fast 5 minutes.
I didn't know if that was 5 minutes or not. I
It
was
was
just
not
like
5 minutes.
listening
It
to the
ends
music.
at 5 minutes.
Oh,
Here's my cookie.
did you
Sorry.
get your cookie?
There's my
All right.
cookie.
You know, after
we
this
did it 5 minutes and no one would have known.
after this, I know who all out there's got a stopwatch.
It
Everybody
ends
was
at 5 minutes. It ends itself.
Oh, does it?
5 minutes long.
Oh, well. Right. Well, I had enough time to run in and grab water, and the
Wow. Okay.
dog was all excited.
We're all
thinking
ready
we
to
were
go.
going
We're all
somewhere.
excited and ready to
I
go.
know, right? I got the dogs excited. They thought we were going somewhere. I don't know.
Right. Well, at least I didn't, it's silent. I didn't say good night, Tucker Carlson. Good night, Putin.
Where
I
are
didn't say
you?
that yet.
See, Putin's at the back door waiting for me. He thinks he's going outside, but it's pouring down rain, so he's crazy.
What
Come
you
here,
got
let's-
there, Tommy?
That's part of an art series I was doing about CTE awareness. I started. I started that's actually the thing that got me like targeted when I started making that movie Brain Slosh, like the actual targeting, and a 5-part series I published with the Goodman Project. This was one of our board members had given me for the nonprofit
amazing.
organization, and I mean this was just it's 3 pictures of the stadium. It's the older stadium after the renovations, and then there was a picture of 3 cows. I could text like the land grant university for the state. Instead of having ag program stuff. As a kid, I remember my dad would always talk about when he was in college, they had a cow with like a plexiglass window in its side so they could observe the digestion.
Oh my
Which I
God.
think is weird. So
Right.
I painted
I do
a window on the side of the cow here. And I
Oh,
just painted over this and started just kind of like
God.
part of my story and like breaking down some of the things associated with my experience at Tech and their connection affiliation with the Central Intelligence Agency and the DoD, like the military industrial complex. Football is it's like the main part of the sports entertainment distraction wing of the
Yes.
military industrial complex, just like all entertainment, and that's why it's, you get
I call it the Military Industrial Entertainment Complex, the MIC,
Yeah.
because it is the Military Industrial Entertainment Complex works hand in hand with the Military Industrial Complex. One cannot survive without the other. So they need that entertainment because they're doing a lot of scurrilous things behind that entertainment. As you know, for sports entertainment, they also bet on you guys and they fix stuff.
Yep.
It's true. My last
Now-
game,
now-
my last game I played was fixed.
Susie?
Penny, I remember God gave me that dream, and He told me what the meaning of Mickey Mouse means. Because Mickey Mouse is when you've been Mickey Moused, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse stands for MIC, Military Industrial Complex. Mickey, that's MICKEY. The key is who was running it is the Mouse, which is the Mossad and the USA. That's what that means.
Wow.
He had
I
Mickey
know.
with the crossbones.
I created this thing called Monarch Mouse.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
And-
Wow.
Now, do you have any recollection of Mars at all, Tommy? Because many people in the programs do.
I tell you, I like the movie Total Recall.
Yes.
Like it struck a chord when I was a kid, like just, and more so as an adult, but like that's something that really stuck out. That and 12 Monkeys and some of the movies that have been made about like that was Montauk Chair stuff. And at the time, like the time exploration, time machine exploration programs and stuff, and going after the the shit hits the fan in Pegasus.
Right.
Speaking of Pegasus,
Susie was
Tommy?
involved in Pegasus.
Tommy, I was
Yeah,
gonna
we
ask-
have that horse in common. We rode that horse.
Brian?
Tommy, yeah,
Yes.
I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to share my screen, and I have here's like an artwork depiction of the Montauk chair, And I was just wondering if you would say that this is what it looked like at all, or did it look different from that?
It's funny. I have a painting I did of Charlie Brown in the Montauk chair,
Hmm.
and it getting, and this big thing coming out of his third eye. It says "Good grief," but
Oh God.
and he's but yeah, it was the Montauk Charlie. Kind of, yeah. It's the chair shaped like that. Like I remember it being seeming more primitive, like more like I don't know, like a dental chair, and then with this weird kind
Oh
of,
God.
but with straps, to hold
Oh,
down. But more like utilitarian than that picture. That was like something nice you get from Sharper Image. This thing was like more, just nuts and bolts, like somebody had built it in a shop.
And then the Montauk chair that you were put into, do you know if it was the one at Camp Hero, or you also mentioned other trip chairs like Cheyenne Mountain, where I think they also don't they have a Stargate there? What they've said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Daryl, that I was talking about earlier, he told me that I was the dream catcher, and if you look at a dream catcher, I mean it's a two-dimensional representation of a vortex. Spinning into itself, and I inadvertently opened a portal or wormhole in 1996 on Memorial Day. And we talked about that last time, didn't I? I don't remember. Okay, yeah. So two of my buddies and I we're hanging out to my teammates from Tech, and went to this little nature preserve in the middle of town, and there is a creek that runs through it, and during the Great Depression, they had the Civilian Conservation Corps that did all these projects, and they built a land bridge over this creek, and to enable the creek to go through, they built this big tunnel that was built in 1933. Oddly enough, and
33. There's your 33 again.
yeah, and the buddies I played that were with me that day were number 3 and number 83, and I was 33. So there's a water pipe that runs through there, and as we got closer and closer to the mouth of this thing, we hear like hand drums coming from the other side. So we decided, I'm like, oh, they're probably having a powwow, because on the other side is the Delta plain or next to the river, and a park, Bissett Park. And when they built Bissett Park, they took down a bunch of mounds and excavated them, and it that showed that like this area was like the crossroads of North America on the eastern side. It didn't have any characteristics of its own, like cultural characteristics of its own, but it had stuff from all the way from the Florida Keys all the way up into Canada, different types of stone and things that had been traded through there. And anyway, so I'm hearing drums. They would have powwows over there like once or twice a year in that park. And so I figured we go check that out, and got up on the pipe. There's a water main that runs through it you can walk on. It's up elevated above the water. And we're going through there, and I stop about halfway through and start singing a song that I had written when I was at Boise. And just a cappella, just the echo inside there really sounded cool. I talked about wanting to record some music there, and then we went on towards what we thought was going to be a powwow, and then it got louder and louder. And as soon as we stepped out of the tunnel, out into to the other side where the park is, suddenly there was no drums at all. It was just like birds and an occasional car going by, and so we thought that was kind of weird. And you step back in the tunnel and you can hear the drums again. It wasn't quite as loud. And then we decided that's weird. No powwow. We're going back to the nature preserve, and just avoid people. And as I was walking back, the sound of the drums get softer and softer and softer. And by the time we reached the place where I'd stopped and sang, suddenly there was no more drums, but we noticed this giant black hole that had opened up in the creek. It's like a whirlpool, and it just dropped down into nothing, just a black hole. that was the width of the tunnel. And like my buddies thought I was going to jump in the thing, and I
That's
actually
crazy.
considered that, you know.
Was the
And,
sound coming out of that? Was that where the sound was coming from? Through that hole?
I don't know. I think that it's like a time enmeshment. Like we were picking up elements of the past, but then as we came back out of the nature preserve side, started. It's like I had to download information about like Mandelbrot geometry sets and fractals, and how everything in our world and reality is like it's like an algorithm or a series of algorithms that run this 4D like overlay and like layers and layers and layers of what we consider reality, and the geometric forms of the trees. I mean, even like the way the valley formed in the sky, visible sky, was like a perfect fractal. And then we could see all of a sudden it's like the stratosphere and ionosphere seem to be like separate, and you can see the different fractal natures of that. And then as the clouds were moving through, we started hearing a weird noise off to the left. Now, I'm just talking about this shit, and my buddies were sitting there with their jaws hanging open, and started hearing this weird kind of like sound like a cardinal chirping, but like with reverb on it, kind of something weird, like some kind of electronic, non-natural sound. And it got my attention. I had been a wildlife biology major at Tech, and I'm like, there's nothing that sounds like that in nature here. And my buddy's like, it's just a bird. I'm like, well, point to me where that bird is. You know, we walk over and start shaking this tree. Nothing flies out of the thing where the sound's coming from. And we decide this is too much weird shit. We're going to leave. And so we have to walk down a little road and then back up. It's an incline going back up to where the street is, leaving the thing. And on the way in, we came through there, and there weren't any, there's a parking lot that's locked. And at the time that park was closed, it was in real bad disrepair. So it was just like the Parks and Rec basically had just been using it to dump, instead of using it to dump like concrete and stuff that they had with it, replaced sidewalks and roads and stuff with. And all of a sudden there's this car sitting there that didn't have, I mean, it was like, it was a Ford Probe is what it looked like. But we walked up to it, something seemed weird and off about it, because here it is, it shows up inside this locked parking lot, which is like boulders blocking it, and then this metal fence that or metal gate that was locked. And it was a holiday, so nobody was down there, letting random car in. It would have been like something during the week with a city vehicle, if anything. And the windows of this car were opaque black.
Tommy, what do you think triggered this?
I think
What triggered all this stuff? Event of?
I've been told it was the vibration of me singing.
Okay.
Because you're in the tunnel and there's this acoustic resonance, and you're singing and you're kind of like vibed out, and then you were in the projects because you may have an ability perhaps to open up wormholes.
Exactly, and it just happened, like kind of without intent or knowledge.
Something happened to Penny when you said that, Tommy.
Yeah.
What happened? Something happened to Penny just now when you said that.
So the car.
What?
So the car itself, suddenly it rippled, and like all the distinguishing factors of the car like disappeared. The wheels sucked up into it, and it just like this amorphous like blob of like mercury. It kind of like Terminator 2, like how the T2 would like turn into like just like liquid silver, like
See, that's like that black goo.
And this thing just sit there, and it just like bobbed for a while, hovering off the ground about that, about 2 feet, something like that.
See, I think that black goo, I think like what you were saying, like that black goo is some kind of alien substance that's like living, and it can become a person, it can become a thing, and then you see it as a thing, and then it melts into a liquid or something, you said?
Yeah, I mean, it looked just like a big blob of mercury sitting there flowing, and and then eventually, like, it started to look like a car again. The wheels dropped back down out of it, and all all the distinguishing features that made it look like a car were there again. I got up and walked off. Like I'd gone over to the driver's door and was doing meditative breathing as my buddies walked around the other side, and that's when it rippled and turned into that blob.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Now I have a couple of questions. I know that we want to touch on the Virginia Tech shootings.
Sorry, don't mean to get off.
That's all right. You can wait till like maybe 15 before we'll touch on those, and then we'll bring it back again the next time you come on, and we can just lightly touch on it, just to touch base with it. But because of the fact that you went to Virginia Tech, I know it was a big part of your life, and I know that there were some things that you did in regards to that, where you had written something about that. And
I need to send you that report. But I started a nonprofit organization.
Tommy, the liquid black thing. One of the okay, so Brett said something about the movie Spider-Man with Venom. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of like that. But what also I thought about when we were talking about what I was thinking about was when Max Spears, because I talked to Max and then I talked to Sarah Adams after Max died, and I talked to Chris Joe Hart, who was very, very close to Max. I mean, they were kind of boyfriend, girlfriend. And she lives in England. Well, Max Spears was Super Soldier, with Casbolt in them. But Max said, and I warned him about not going in the cave, that they would die in the cave, right? But he said he had to go in there because he was a time traveler. Okay. Now, apparently he went into a situation where he astral traveled out of his body. I don't know, it was a chair he was sitting in or what it was that he was doing, but he came out of his body. What he said to Chris Joe Hart afterwards, he said that he got into a battle with Michael Aquino in the astral plane, and Michael Aquino became a scorpion and stung him. And then after he came back, he broke out with a high fever, and then when he died within 24 hours, he had this black goo coming out of him, which I'm thinking is more like what you're talking about, this mercury look thing, which is also like venom. I think it's all connected to this whatever this is, and it's also in the Norse and Loki was supposedly formed from black goo. That's the substance he was made of. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you go ahead and go on, but I just had to put that in there.
Yeah, I was talking with either you or Brenda the other night about that when I got hit by a car coming out of the grocery store.
I know. I was like, what in the H is going on with you, young man?
I know when he said that, he said, I got hit by a car.
You got hit by the car when I was talking. Yeah.
Yes. I said,
what the hell?
My God, are you okay?
I made a police report and I haven't heard anything from the police since that.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So Tommy, that here's this car. It goes from being like a normal car to like a shape-shifting hovering car.
It wasn't a car, it was shape-shifting hovering blob.
Or blob. And then Susie is wondering maybe it was black goo. And then I'm wondering, was it black goo or was it some other ET technology where they're revealing themselves in one of their ships, and their ships can shapeshift apparently. And they were there observing you and your buddies because you had opened up a portal. Is that what happened? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out like the context of that car there.
I think that came through. In between that opening and us, turning around and coming back, it's like that came through. The bird kind of noise, like the electronic bird noise we were hearing, seemed like maybe the intelligence getting our attention, and then leading us up to leave out of there and come across that thing, and it just something seemed off. Like my buddy walked up and tried to open the door, and like the door handle didn't move at all. It was like it was welded like solid to the thing, and like I said, you couldn't see in like opaque windows.
Right.
So but it seemed more like a silver like liquid mirror is what it looked like.
And did your buddies see that too, or did it only appear that way to you? Or
All
they
three
saw it? Okay.
I'll figure this out. I talked about it on a podcast a couple months ago for the first time publicly, and I sent links to both the guys, and they said it was an accurate. That's what they saw too. It was an accurate representation of what had occurred. Yeah.
And did you get any
That's so
messages
wild,
or
Tommy.
feelings
That's
from
so
it?
wild.
Like when,
Well,
when you guys were standing around it?
I got a message in the feeling that shit was going to hit the fan, and that I needed to like start preparing, and like in the terms of like prepping and stuff, and like making myself as healthy and as strong as possible. And I was 22 at the time. I was healthy, and strong.
Right.
I got the sense that that there was impending something that was big that was going to make a big change. Like something was going to happen, either a dimensional shift or like the EMP, some type of maybe a war or something like.
Or a timeline shift.
Exactly. And I feel like since like 2013, 12, 13, something like that, like there has been a divergence of timelines. Like, I don't know if that's connected with the CERN or going back to like the Philadelphia experiment when they ripped time space in with the Eldridge.
Well, Tommy, just to interrupt, a lot of from what I understand, when they were strapping people into the Montauk trip chair to open up holes in time and space, they were doing it to alter our timeline that we're all on right here and create like the Mandela effect. And then, you might be part of what caused some of these effects if you were, in that chair.
Yeah, quite possibly. Like, it's,
Participated in the program of it. Yes.
Yes. I also think that they had, because at one point when I was coming out of MK Ultra, I thought that I was actually at Montauk, because when I called the Duffer Brothers, there was a lawsuit against the Duffer Brothers. It was Charlie Kessler who wrote a story about Montauk, and it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. So he sued the Duffer Brothers who created Stranger Things, and I called their attorney. And I said, I'd like to talk to Charlie Kessler. And they're like, why? And I say, because I was at Montauk. And there was like silence. I'm like, hello? Is anyone there? And I said, please give Charlie my information. Well, 2 weeks later, Charlie dropped the lawsuit. So I called the attorney back and I said, I'd still like to talk to Charlie Kessler. And he said, we gave your message to Charlie, but he doesn't want to talk about it, Penny. He didn't say he couldn't. He didn't say he had an NDA. He said he didn't want to talk about it. So, but since then, I've come to now believe that my mother may have been at Montauk, because my mother was born in Jamaica, New York, and she painted lighthouses. She was an artist, much like yourself. And then also, I believe that they had those chairs in many different places because of the fact they had more CIA agents in Florida, and still do, than they had in Langley. I believe that they conducted those experiments there because, as you know, Nixon took Jackie Gleason to one of the bases down there to show him the aliens. So they were doing these experiments all over the United States. And I believe that they also had those chairs somewhere in Miami.
There's
I was in one of those chairs.
Well, I think once they got the technology to work and got dialed in, and some of the some of the terminal points plotted. I think that's what they were doing during the early stages of the Montauk Project, when they were kidnapping kids and throwing them in the chair that weren't surviving the thing, was to create terminal points. It's like a phone book, where you dial things up.
Yes.
And after that, they replicated the technology and placed it in several different places. And I think that was maybe the origin of the jump room. And that way, because it was opening. You step in one space and you step out into, without the actual time space travel.
That would seem to me to be more like Stargate.
Yeah, well, that too.
Stargate.
Well, the Stargates too, but they also utilize them for local terrestrial and non-terrestrial relocation, bilocation, or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, because the jump rooms from here to Mars, but they established on the United States too. That way they could take you could step instantly from one physical location where you lived and resided, and then into, say, Giant Mountain for programming or something there, or in say in Alabama at NASA, or any of the or Bohemian Grove, or anywhere where there might be
Yes.
a need to transport somebody for a ritual, or like ongoing programming, or assassination, or some type of clandestine action.
Are you missing time? Do you wear a watch?
I do sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wear one all the time. So
I have several instances of missing time. Two of them involve Nashville that I have direct memory of. Like driving back there after I moved there in 2019. I have no memory of driving from the last 100 miles in, and then I come to. I've already made two interstate exchanges, and I'm right at the exit where I used to live, like up until 2015, and have no memory of driving at all. It was like I was sleep driving for like the last 100 miles. And but there was, and then all of a sudden pulled over to get gas, pulled off the interstate, and just run back across the East Nashville where I was living. And it was like 5 a.m, where it had been like maybe 2 when I stopped to get coffee at Crossville, which is 100 miles away. And that was a couple days before the NFL draft in Nashville, which was odd. That was right when I moved there and ended up working. That was one of the first weekends I worked there. Which was weird. Like Roger Goodell walked right past me, and they were using the upstairs of the club I worked at as a media kind of hub for that.
I was going to encourage everyone.
Okay.
Susie has yet to watch this. It's called John Dies in the End. Everyone needs to watch that because
Right.
it talks about the black goo. It talks about the interdimensions, but it had a personal interest for me because the two characters are John and David. Those are my two brothers. And they go to another dimension and they're being worshipped in a church. And I saw pictures of my brother John on a wall in a church in Illinois. And so I thought that was odd. He was wearing a COVID mask, and he was also in a life-size painting, which I thought was made from probably, adrenochrome and blood mixed in with the paint, which was put on the portrait, which was a shiny portrait. And I took a picture of that. Art is very important. So the fact that you do art, you express in many ways. You don't just express in art, you express in song, in frequency. And you're multi-talented, athletic wise. How tall are you?
6 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 feet.
I was gonna say that
Okay.
when I seen some of the stuff that he draws, that you had said something about him. He should go back through his music.
Yes, his
Well,
music and
his
and his
drawings
drawing.
are the same way.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're it's like you're
Outlet.
streaming through your media. So you're literally when I write in code. So when I went back for my handler, who I hadn't seen in 40 years, and I spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert with him, and they wanted to know what I was writing because I started writing a television series called Bradford and Valentine. And I wrote the trailer because I had to learn how to walk and talk all over again. And so I wrote the trailer, and I wanted Darrell to read the trailer. He looked at it like once because he was like, I don't need to read it again. I said, no, it needs to be perfect. I was writing it for James Patterson's masterclass because I had to learn how to write all over again. And I've been writing since I was in, 3rd grade. I wrote a children's book in 6th grade. So that this is the expression because we're literally writing, we're writing in code. So they went back through. I also am a cipherist, so I can decipher ciphers, which you are too. You just don't know it yet because if you're writing music, then you're writing A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, right? That you're literally writing in code because I believe that numbers are binary code, if you will. The number code is the galactic language.
Oh yeah.
Why math is so important.
Okay, I have a scripture I want to drop, and here's the thing. One of the things that Jesus told me was that Michael Aquino was Satan. Okay, so I read the Bible 7 times from beginning to end, and I've studied. I spent 30 years in the church, so this is the one scripture that I'm thinking about as we're talking about the subject, and it's in Daniel 7:25. And I'm going to read, there's different, and this is interesting because it says parallel verses, meaning different Bible translations. And I'm going to just pull this one up that I thought was kind of interesting. It was from the New American Standard Version, like the parallel worlds. Okay. It says, he shall speak words against the Most High. And I'm referencing, Satan, Michael Aquino. Okay. Because he was running the entire, program. He was overseeing it, right? So he shall speak words against the Most High, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And he shall think to change the times and the law, that they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half of a time. So that's talking about somebody trying to create Mandela effects, multiple timelines. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, makes sense. You guys were talking about handling stuff when I was a kid. My parents took me to UVA to have me tested because I had some difficulties reading and learning to spell and stuff. But I was doing calculus like in third, fourth grade, and so they took me to UVA and had me tested and found out that I did in fact have dyslexia, like my grandmother had thought. Because when I would draw things in mirror image a lot of times, really detailed things. And my grandmother was a psych professor, my mom's mom. And so they also found out I had a really high IQ, like over 180. And it was like 1 in 63 million, 1 in greater than 63 million people, like with the IQ. And after that, when they told my parents it would probably manifest more like a disability than any type of advantage. And so I never really felt smart, like when they suddenly put me in the gifted programs, and I still am like learning disabled classes or resource classes until through middle school. And then by the time I was a senior in high school, I was in advanced English and was writing quite often. But my point is somewhere in there. My dad pulled me aside when I was after the test at UVA, and he walks me through what my future is going to be. At the time, I was really I was obsessed with Army and military just in general. And I mean, I had all this Army like surplus gear. I had a gas mask and I had an MP helmet, like World War II era MP helmet, and like fatigues and utility belt and all kinds of stuff. And I made like gun replicas out of military gun replicas out of plywood. And I was actually a subscriber to Guns and Ammo, and I was a junior member of the NRA and was a like light rifle expert when I was like 9-10 years old, before my eyesight, my right eye went south. And then but my dad's like, and I was kind of obsessed with Virginia Military Institute at the time, because like that, my dad was one of his heroes when he was growing up was Robert E. Lee, and this, the Southern like folklore and stuff, with the folks within the Confederacy, that was taught pretty heavily in the schools, and just the Southern history and stuff, which is odd that's part of it, but I guess that was part of Jim Crow era. But he said that I would go to VMI and get my undergrad, and then I could go to UVA or William and Mary and get my master's, and then I would join the CIA, and then after a few years I could run for president. That conversation stood out. My dad doesn't remember it, but I remember it like it was yesterday. It was weird. We were on the patio at my grandmother's house, and it's just the two of us. And he had a buddy at the time that was working for the CIA as a one-man architect firm, and he got sent to Beirut to assess the weaknesses and stuff at the embassy there. And he came back and wrote the report, and he determined that the biggest weakness was for the attack with potential car bomb, and then the bombing happened at the U.S. embassy in Beirut. The truck bomb did, and right after that happened, they came and they threatened him. They said, if you ever say anything that you did this, you'll regret it. And then like within the next couple of months, his daughter was murdered.
So you're saying that was a false flag where they basically had him do an analysis of likely threats, and then once they got his analysis, they pulled it off as a false flag?
Yep.
Dirty bastards. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah, right. And I remember like when that happened, like I remember seeing the Time magazine with the Marines carrying the other Marine with all the flesh blown off the back of his legs. And I was cleaning my grandfather's barbershop at the time. That was my job a couple times a week. And I would snag the old magazines just to make like photo collages and stuff out of. But yeah, that's crazy stuff. And he ended up dying of Parkinson's. It was one of my dad's good buddies, a guy named Peter Wren. He did a really nice stipple drawing of me when I was playing football at Tech, which is I've got somewhere. I'll send you guys a picture for the next episodes or whatever. But
Yeah, the next episode that we come in with, I'm going to play a little bit from your brain slosh documentary. We'll just take our time and getting to some of the subjects that we need to. The Virginia Tech thing can wait. It's in a PowerPoint. So, because we have so much to discuss.
Yeah, no doubt. It's also interwoven. It's hard to tell like a linear recollection of the events that happened, because there are things that led to things that were connected to things that
yes, and sometimes just through the normal conversation, you'll start remembering different things. So, like if we were like to discuss some events, like the individual who immolated himself in front of the Trump trial, which that's going to be something. I don't know if I discussed this with you before, but Ellie Flippen is the niece of Ingo Swann. And she's on our show as a regular. She's coming on once a month. She decided that she's working on a lot of different projects, and she has the estate of Ingo Swann. So if you want to follow her, you can find her on X under that. But she did one of her episodes about, because we're talking about MK Ultra and also SRI, which is the remote viewing, which Ingo Swann was known for, being controlled remote viewer. But she talked about the individual who was in the military who burned himself, killed himself by fire in front of the embassy, and he was active military. Okay.
Careful.
Yes. And so he was, I don't know if he had been deployed or he was going to be deployed, but he killed himself by setting himself on fire. Now, that's a very unusual, very extreme way of making a point, is to kill yourself in that fashion.
I don't know if you realize this, but the Fort Hood shooter, he'd attended Virginia Tech.
I did not know that. Okay, so that's a subject many people don't know because I don't share it that often. But my master's degree was in school shootings. That's what my master's thesis was. But at the time, okay, now in retrospect, because that was in 2007, by the way, when I got my master's degree, and I was unaware that I was even MK Ultra. I didn't find out I was MK Ultra until 2016 when I left my husband, who subsequently died on January 6th, an interesting date, in 2008.
Max dies, yeah.
And when Max died, 2 months later, when Max Spears died, I was basically brought back in to the fold because I wanted to find out, what I knew and what I didn't know. And I ended up contacting my former agent and speaking with him again. But within, here's the other thing too. It's their voice. Oh, yeah. It could be the timbre in their voice. It's almost like hypnotizing and addictive at the same time. It's like you need to hear that voice, and it's the timbre in the voice. So when I was shown a clone of John, I knew that it wasn't John, because and I saw him, and my sister-in-law was talking to me, and I started weeping. And I saw him coming into the Starbucks I was in. She said, "What are you seeing?" I said, "It's John, but it's not." The timbre in his voice, because you and I are singers, the timbre in his voice is different. And he looks like him. He's younger. He looks exactly like him. He's got a wedding ring on. I said, but he doesn't recognize me. He doesn't know me, and I cannot approach. And she said back to me, "No, you can't. That same woman's dead now. She died December 24th, 2017. And then my husband died January 6th, 2018. But I wasn't told for 10 days. I was told on the birthday of my first husband, who died 6 months earlier, after he told me that John was my brother. 3 weeks later, he died of a heart attack.
Wow. Don't know what to say.
We have convoluted lives,
Yeah.
but you know what? We're all here together to share the information that we have, because something you say may impact me and bring back a memory. Something Brenda says may impact, Susie, or impact you. All of a sudden we're all able to converge and put some of these pieces together. And then hopefully those that are listening, we may have an impact on them. They may say, "Oh my gosh," and have some memories.
You said that there's some of the first couple podcasts I did was I did Rob's podcast with Typical Skeptic, and some of that opened some memories for me. And there's another one I did. It's called Imagination podcast with Emma.
Yes, Emma.
And
I love her.
Emma's boyfriend was programmed in West Nashville, where my former handler fiance bought a condo in the same building as his handler. It's 6666 Brookmont Terrace. This high rise.
6666.
Yeah.
What a
Nice
great
number.
address.
Nice number.
Yeah, and like that, right across from the.
It's your double threes. It's your double threes. Yeah.
Did you not like recoil when you saw that address?
Yeah, a little bit. But
Not
I mean,
go, shit.
it was such a beautiful place. Like it's on the highest point in the county. Looks like this UFO. Like it's like a 3-pronged kind of building built in the early 70s, and just super nice. I was dealing with multiple stalkers at the time. This place had 24-hour security and a door guy, and so that was something that I thought would relieve that. But turns out the fiance was the main stalker that was using
Right.
a cell phone with a bunch of SIM cards and spyware on my phone as a way to make it seem like multiple individuals were stalking me anywhere I went in the U.S.
And what was the spyware that was on your phone? Was it called Pegasus?
The most recently, yeah, I found evidence of Pegasus software on the phone last year, and I've seen the same analytic logs in recent months. But I think they use different ones. But I found Pegasus, and it had something else on it. Said one of the other things. It was all on ARM64 of my iPhone framework. I said mobile obliteration was one of the things.
Mobile obliteration?
Yeah, that was right under
Jeez.
Pegasus.
Nice. Nice title.
Yeah, I mean they use all kinds of obvious shit in the in the analytics. So that
I want to throw a quick question about FISA at you. What are your thoughts on the fact that Johnson just voted for FISA continuing to spy on Americans with no warrant?
It's bullshit. It's a huge invasion of privacy. And the thing is, they don't. It's not always done by law enforcement or by intelligence gathering groups. It's by citizen spies like the Stasi.
They're called Fusion Group.
Yeah, it's InfraGard was the main one in the United States, but in that it's comprised of a bunch of neighborhood watches and employees of military industrial complex contractors and police, fire and rescue. But most of the surveillance and stuff that's going on is just by neighbors and people that you think are your friends or even some family members. And it's ridiculous. You have no privacy. No wonder that a lot of target individuals or a lot of mass shootings or mass attacks are carried out by victims of gang stalking and the targeting program, because it drives them crazy. Like the shooter in Las Vegas he reached out to the FBI multiple times without any without them like investigating or taking him serious. Like I reached out to the FBI several times, and like the head of the Roanoke field office, which is the local field office here, is run by a guy who played at Tech like 4 or 5 years behind me, played in the NFL. His name's Cadella is his last name. And he hadn't responded. I got his personal phone number, cell number from one of the guys in the Tech football forum, and he has yet to respond to any of my text message or calls. And I've called from multiple different cell phones as a way to try to see if it's like if my calls were getting diverted or something, or texts were getting diverted. And because one time when I called the Homeland Security, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Homeland Security that I spoke with. It was somebody saying that, it was what they told me was just nonsense. But I've had the FBI hang up on me twice.
Yeah, we have a friend, a very good friend of ours. Her name is Holly Fan. She was actually thrown in a Saudi jail for 17 days. She was reporting sex trafficking and drug trafficking, and them operating on children without anesthesia, and organ trafficking at the King Faisal Hospital. I think the Mossad tried to take her out at one point, but she ended up homeless. And she knew the kings. She knew a couple of the kings of Saudi. She also knew one of the individuals who I think he still has a substantial ownership in X, which was formerly Twitter. And she also was, extremely targeted. She had a lawsuit. I think she still does. It's pending against Homeland Security. But when I showed her a picture of Brennan, she started weeping. And I said, "Do you know this guy?" And she's like, "Yes, I saw him at embassy parties." I said, "Well, I bet you did, because he was a station chief in Saudi." So, that makes sense. So we've always had a rogue CIA. I personally am under the impression that the CIA is actually running the world, because we install governments and then we tear them down. We install assassins. And so that's what the MK Ultra project is. On its surface, you would say that the large scope of MK Ultra is mind control for the masses, which would include the military industrial entertainment complex. The propagandist arm would be the Mockingbird media. And then also they're programmed through watching television, in which they're leaking intel through these things. I think you and I spoke about Tracy Torme, who was on our show, and he was his dad was Mel Torme, the very famous Torme, and he was and he was a screenwriter, and he was he also did Fire in the Sky, so he was a ufologist. He died this January. And he was on our show for almost a year, and I became very close to him. But I said to him, I talked to him about the military industrial entertainment complex, and I said, "Were you aware that the CIA was in your writing rooms? Because the CIA has agents in every single writing room, and you're talking about also your agents who are, would anyone actually think your agent is an agent, like for the deep state and for the CIA? You just like, no, he's my agent." And then later on you find out this guy's deep state, and and I believe that all of them in the hierarchy are. So the MK Ultra proposition that we speak of, and that we're going to be continuing to speak about, involves all forms of entertainment, and also the super soldier programs. And when people, it kind of gets me angry when they're like, "Well, Richard Helms, said that they broke up the MK Ultra, and he dumped all the files." No, he didn't. And MK Ultra never ended. It is the currency of the New World Order, and it's been around since man, was on this planet. Man conceived to enslave man. So they're controlling the narrative, and it's up to all of us that are here and everybody that's listening right now to start speaking out. If you have a blog, please blog. If you're a musician, use your craft to for betterment of mankind and to reveal these things. And I'm going to say many people come to me and they're MK Ultra and they're afraid. And I say, you know, how many times in the Bible did Jesus say, be not afraid? And one of the things I say in shadow, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow government, I will fear no Satans. And so that's our message. Move forward without any fear. You who have been, you know, severely injured, and all of the people that have been in these programs that have been their character assassinated, they're still being, you know, watched and monitored and being assassinated. Many, their finances are being assassinated. Their ability to make any kind of a living being assassinated. And I say to you all, don't despair and believe that and you're not alone. So many people are like, you're going to think I'm crazy. I'm like, dude, I spent a year in a crazy house. I'm certainly not going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Susie?
Penny, I wanted to say that puts new meaning to Max Spear's father, who played Danger Man,
Yes.
right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, when he died, it took me 4 years, Tommy, to figure out why he died 8 days after the NATO summit in Poland. And then when I found out that his grandfather was also an actor and his grandfather was in Danger Man, which Danger Man was about NATO having agents, and everyone was like, oh, that's ridiculous. That could never happen, because they are agents.
Yeah.
And Danger Man and also the original Danger Man was going to be the executive producer was going to be Ian Fleming, who was an agent. The man who wrote 007, he was an agent, and he worked with Ivor Bryce, and they lived in Jamaica but also in where Montauk is, Long Island.
Julia Childs was also she was in the OSS.
Yes, she was. She was a darn good cook, though.
Yeah, and
So it was his grandfather, not his father. Was it Percy what was it? Percy Herbert or
Percy Herbert
Okay.
was Max's grandfather, and he was in Mutiny on the Bounty. He was, you know, and then when Max grew up, they were grooming Max, because I was told at one point I was supposed to be the next Max Spears, and I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like so much older than him. How could be the next one? Because he was involved in exposing Michael Aquino and the military industrial entertainment complex. And that's what I believe there are no coincidences. We are all together, all of us right now that are right here. We're all together for a reason, to share intel and to share our lives. As you know, what does it say a witness is in a court of law? That you always have two witnesses, right? And then that makes the testimony validated. Unfortunately, in our court, that we have a bunch of criminal witnesses that are coming in and liars that are expert witnesses.
Right.
But that's what we're here for. We're to share our lives. We're to share our experiential history, and we're to help one another. And Brian has been just a very kind individual who, from day one, when I met him, his character had been assassinated by someone, and that person proved to be a legit cray-cray individual.
oh yeah,
Okay.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, listen, guys, we are running out of time. So let's go ahead and Penny, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on the Awake Nation, and that's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central and 9 to 12 noon Eastern. And then you can also find me, I'm working on Patriots Perspective with Christy Tasker, and also on the Dark Outpost. I still have to book for that. I haven't been booking for that. And then also here on Beyond the Box, and that's Fridays and Saturdays from 9 to 11 Central, and that's 10 to 12 midnight Eastern.
Anybody thinking about dating Penny? Well, you're going to have to get our approval, because she
True.
works so much. God only knows
Yes.
what happens.
And you're also going to have to go through David Zublik, because,
That's true. And Penny,
one of
you
my
have
best
yes, and you have to tell David that I said personally, thank you for letting us borrow you.
Okay.
And Brian, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'll share my screen real quick. The Full Disclosure Now conference
you.
coming up in July.
There you go.
This is a main thing because we have just such a superstar lineup of a lot of the people that we were speaking about tonight. Their names came up, and they're all enmeshed in these topics. Just like Tommy is saying, it's all kind of connected, and it's really crazy. You can't go over it in just a linear way. And so fulldisclosuremovement.org is where, for the time being, I'd like everyone to try to find me. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah.
And Tommy, do you
can
want
find me-
anybody to find you?
I mean, I've had a lot of since I started doing these podcasts, I've had a lot of interesting interactions with the folks online. I've had threats. I've had all kinds of weird shit happen, and like agent provocateurs reach out to me and just random shit. But I'm on Instagram, Touchdown Tommy Edwards. Like my right now, my X is space or like profile is locked out. That happened last Friday, so I set up a second one that's just under Tom Edwards. And there's no picture, but I'll be putting one up there pretty soon. Like YouTube, I've got a YouTube channel. I got a lot of my music and also talking about some of the weird stuff and things over the years. I've been in the process of starting a little podcast called The Oddcast. It's
Oh, I like that.
cast. And
The Oddcast.
it says it's serious topics, but also with a little comedy mixed in. And just a
Is that like The Odd Couple?
No, just well, I mean, and I've used these AI images that I create with like it'd be like Darth Vader and Mr. T and like Taylor Swift eating pizza.
Very nice.
Oh, yes.
Very nice. Hey, Tommy, how can people help you? Do you have a GoFundMe or a PayPal?
I have a Cash App. It's a cash tag is uppercase D, lowercase r, uppercase G, and it spells Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong, right?
Yeah, Dr. Gonzo.
Wait, do I still
Bing
have
bong.
that on here? I had that on here.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong.
Yeah, and I've got an OnlyFans, but it's just like pictures and videos like ceiling fans and oscillators, and it's kind of a joke.
You got
I
your
love it,
guitar,
Bing Bong.
Tommy?
I do.
You gonna play us a tune?
Do you
I
sleep with that?
This is my comfort blanket when I'm talking and stuff.
There you go. That's what I was gonna say.
Ah.
Do you sleep with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, next time you're gonna have to play us a song. You pays
Yeah,
to
right?
play. You better take the ride.
Pays to play.
Buy the ticket.
All right. Well, we are going to get out of here because we are out of time. Everybody, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And like always, everybody, please be kind to one another. We will see you next weekend. Bye-bye.
Goodbye for now from Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs with our extraordinary guests.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. often.